Right, recording started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new session of Azure Power Lunch. Today's topic is on extending Power Platform with the custom connector. My name is Ala Tadmouri. I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. Our agenda is really on the slides. I have literally just 3 slides. I want to focus on the demo today. If you have questions, please go off mute and ask your question. And with that, let's get started. Actually, before we start, I'm not sure if let's just the disclaimer again. As you know, this call is recorded, and the recording will be placed on YouTube. And the call is attended by Microsoft and also our guests and partners. Welcome everybody. But if you don't want to be recorded, you could feel free to drop off now. All right, so today's agenda will have a quick overview on a Power Platform and what is a custom connector, why it's important, why we need them, briefly a use case, and then a demo. Again, I want to focus on the demo because I was testing the custom connector, and some parts of it are not as intuitive as as I expected them personally to be. So just in case, I don't want you to run to the same issues. Hopefully, that would save you some time if you want to follow along or try this in your environment. Then, as usual, okay, let me share my screen differently then, because I don't know this. I take the sorry about that. So anyway, so Power Platform, you have probably seen this slide so many times already. I'm not gonna go through. The Power Platform is a set of families of like Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. But in any slide, most likely you will see data connectors. Those are essential part of Power Platforms. They are not afterthoughts. They are very important, a core component of the platform. So today we'll talk about custom connectors. There are also out-of-the-box connectors. Today we'll talk about custom connectors. So why do we need what is a custom connector for us? Let's talk that. Basically, it's a wrapper around an API that makes this API available to Power Platform as a native component in Power Platform. So there are already like tens, I wouldn't exaggerate if I say hundreds of built-in connectors. You should always consider using the built-in before jumping to using a custom connector. But the ability of having a custom connector is there. Actually, before I go to the demo, just quickly, why it's important to have this ability, a custom connector? It's probably like if you remember in the old days, ASP.NET Core, we had like a grid view, a drag and drop experience as here in low code, no code. But like you could drag a grid view, right click, connect it to your SQL, and you have the best hello world demonstration ever. It's really like fascinating. But then as you take that to production, it does 90% of the job, but if you want to do any customization, that 10% of the job eliminates all the fascinating aspects about the drag and drop experience, because it takes so much time to do any customization. I want to say Microsoft has came a long way in building a drag and drop experience, low code platform that's customizable and extendable. So first, when I was looking at Power Platform, first I looked at, can I extend this thing? Because I learned my lesson from that time, 15 years ago, or whenever it was, we had ASP.NET forms. So what I want to say, custom connectors shouldn't be your first solution when you think about Power Platform. It's a low code, no code, use the built-in connectors whenever possible. But please know that this platform is capable. You could extend it. The customization of the components are first thoughts in the platform. They are not, something that will take you a lot to do. They are built in. And actually, like putting the platform as I usually hear, like low code, no code, or Power Platform is for citizen developers. I don't disagree. But I probably, if you are a professional developer, this is still a very capable platform that you should consider. And actually, after working a lot in the digital transformation, I could, I'm gonna claim that you really, a big organization specifically cannot do true digital transformation without a low code platform. And Power Platform is, of course, the Microsoft offering for low code solutions. So with no further ado, let's go with the demo here. I have just two links. The second one is really important. I'll reference it later on in the demo. Okay, so let's just set up the demo. What I have here, I have an Azure function, good old Azure function, and I have a sample API that uses Swagger. Most likely, if you have an API, it uses you have Swagger already. In my function, I created this from the portal. The only thing that I did differently here is I formatted the output from a string to be JSON, because if you want to consume or if you want to build a custom connector, the response, the API should be JSON, which in most cases is JSON. In this case, Microsoft gives you a default function that returns a string just because they want to get you started with the least code. So the only thing that's different from the default function is that I'm doing it. Of course, I'm not doing it the smart way here. I'm just formatting the string to fake JSON, but you get the point. You need to return JSON to be able to build the custom connector. All right, so now let's go to make.powerapps.com and let's build our custom connector. Any questions so far before we dig into the demo? Alrighty, so the components that I showed you on the slides, you see Dataverse, you see AI Builder, etc. Go here. This is your main like studio, let's say, for Power Platform. If I want to build a custom connector, I'll go custom connectors. But before I do that, I want to show you the one that these are the ones that I created. We are gonna do basically a repeat of the blank one. However, what I want to show you here, if you add a new connector, look at those built-in connectors. Literally look at the scroll here. Really tens of connectors. So please, I'm showing you custom connector, but look at those built-in before you build your own, because most likely you're gonna see a built-in connector, unless you are hosting. All right. Showed you here. We need some information from the function app. Wish we copied these. Let's copy them first. I'll get the URL of the function app, and also let's do a quick test. This function app takes a string parameter of name, let's say, and it will return just a greeting saying hello, whatever name you passed here. So I'll take that to here. We'll need it when we build our custom connector. So gonna go build a connector from blank first, then I'll show you how to build it from OpenAPI, previously Swagger. Most likely you will need it from you're not gonna do the blank one, but it's still useful for us at the beginning to see titles to create a custom connector. Let's call it custom connector. To me, let's go give it 2 here. Okay, so it takes me to this screen to walk me through the setting up the host. I have the host here. This is where my Azure function is hosted. Paste that here. This URL, that's usually, you know, a convention and a lot of organizations, the API is hosted /API. In my case, I'm just using the function as one endpoint. So my base URL, I'll keep it empty. And the security here, let me just show you the options. You could, of course, secure this connector with whatever security integration that you have. Look at that, even basic authentication. I was actually shocked to see that username, password, basic authentication is still an option. I understand there are legacy, probably APIs. Please don't use this unless you have to. Please use OAuth2. The link that I have in my presentation shows you how to integrate with Azure AD. So that should be your go-to. API keys are still used, widely used, still good. But aim for OAuth2 basically. For now, I'm gonna go with no authentication. I want to focus on building the definition and the custom connector. Right, so let's define a new action. I'm good with that. Summary, I want to just get greeted from Azure function. This operation is, let's call it get greeted. This basically what's going to show in my application as the operation name. Right, so for the request, conveniently, it prompted me to import that from a sample. So if I copy the entire thing here, I can define that manually, but if I put the entire thing, notice I put the query string here, and this is a get. If it was a post, I would need to specify the payload. Of course, it's a get, so I just import that. And look here, it looked at my URL. It saw that it takes a query string of name, so it populated that already. For the response, remember my response type returns just one property, greeting, and whatever name. I'd copy that. I'd let it generate the schema. I could have written the schema manually, just one thing, but still, I don't, of course, need the same greeting. I'm just defining the schema, so it's the here the key is greeting and the value is of type string. Let's import that. Right. Good to code. This is interesting. You could override and the response. You could manipulate the response before it goes to the app. So you could write custom code. At some point, we might do a demonstration of that piece. I think I like it. I thought this is an interesting addition to custom connectors, but for now, I'm not gonna do it. Let's go to test. So it's saying you must create a custom connector before testing. Okay, no problem. Let's create it. Saving. I can't see the chat. I see there are probably questions there. Please feel free to go off mute, or otherwise at the end we could discuss the chat. So now it took me to new connection here, create new connection. So what we were creating is a definition of the custom connector. Think of what we were doing is writing, let's say, a class, C# Java class, and now a new connection, we are instantiating that class. So I'll create a new connection. All of this for me to test, and look, it took me to connections. This is I found it counterintuitive. I just wanted to test the connector while I was doing it. But anyway, it took me to connections. I'll go back to custom connectors. I insist I want to test it first. This is the one that we created. I'll edit it again. And I'll go to test right away. Where's the security definition? We did all of that already. Code. Test. Okay, and now we have a connection, the one that we created. get greeted is defined. It takes a name, whatever I pass a name. That's the pool. We got to 200. Okay, and the body, of course, from the function, the greeting, it's the same one that we saw here. So our custom connection works as we expected. Okay, I don't need to do anything here. I close it. Actually, I wish I showed you something now when I opened it again. You see here, connect via on-premises data gateway. That's interesting. If you are hosting your API on-premise, you could still use a custom connector connected via gateway. So now let's go quickly and create an app that uses this custom connector. Create a custom app, custom app 01, whatever tablet. Okay, let's first go and add our custom connector. This is the one we created, add that. And I'll insert some, let's insert the text box. Let's insert a button. And let's insert the label. So the idea that I put my name here, a name here in the text box, click the button to invoke the custom API, let it show the message, this message that returns here. Let's see if we could do this. If I could do this quickly. So in the screen visible, I'll define a variable. As if you're high level developer, this is a weird way of doing development, but you get the hang of it. You need to set a variable, then yeah, I'll show you. So set a variable, let's call it greeting var, and let's set it to blank. Basically, I'm just defining an empty variable here whenever the screen shows. And now this label, I'm gonna set it to my variable. Now the button will call the custom connector and update that var, that is, which will update the update context. And you see here, thankfully, it provides some tips, because I wouldn't figure, the syntax not intuitively. To my mind, most, if as in programming, most programming languages, you would do label one dot text equals the text. Anyway, so the syntax greeting var, and then I'm gonna call my connector, custom connector. Thankfully, it prompted me here. And see, get greeted. This is the operation that we defined. And it knows that it takes a name, which is correct in the query string. We need to pass a name. And instead of passing a hard-coded name, I'll take it from the text input here. So let's text, but we'll take the text of the. Let's see if I could close these brackets correctly. This first, this, then get greeted returns greeting. That's when we define the response, if you remember. And now we want to close this. We want to close this. Okay. Let's test the. Let's run the app. Let's put a name. And sure, our custom connector connection works. So we exposed a function app through custom connector to our application. Think of that. This is really powerful. And let's just prove that it's pulling the information from our connector here quickly. I could modify that, say hi, save it, test our app again. And surely now it says hi. All right. So this is the first part of our demo. I'll take questions now, because what I'm going to show you next is how to create a custom connector, but from Open API. And for this, I have already built a Swagger. Most likely you already have that built. So I'll show you how to import that from Swagger. Right, let's save this up. Won't hurt. All right, and now studio again, and go to custom connectors and import one from an Open API file. So guys, if you wanna save your Swagger, you could download the JSON from the definition online. So I did that already. So I'll go to import and look at this now. What is gonna happen? The error that I used to get. So Swagger, the latest version of Swagger uses schema 3, and it seems it's not compatible. So thankfully the error message is clear enough. So the only thing that I needed to do, I went to use Swagger. This is where you add your Swagger, and I serialized the schema as v2. I'm sure Microsoft will catch up and update to v3, but for now, if you are trying to do it, serialize your Swagger to v2. With that, I have the v2. After creating the v2, I created that. This should work. Custom connector from Open API 01, or let's call it 001 since I have 01 already. You could upload an icon for that. Again, same thing here. Let's take the host. Security, I'd keep it no authentication. By the way, you could see what it's generating in the backend, the schema that's generated, and you could modify it manually here too. Summary, you see here like all those operations, the get and this. I hoped it populate default values, even though might not be, it should allow me to update the default values, but I wish it prompted me the default values. I still need to go and define like get items. You see here from Swagger, I'm referring to those. I still need to give them name, like here, this is pulling all my to-do. If I try it here, I just pulled some to-do list. So I wish this gives me those by default, but it doesn't. So this get all to do items. I'm gonna define that. I'm gonna define, actually I didn't finish defining that. Get items for, thankfully it imported the request and the response. I'm gonna trust that and imported them correctly. And for this create a new to do list item. Or to do. Okay. And for the request, I see that it defines the body of the request. Again, yeah, the body of the request ID is complete name, which indeed, if I go to here to the post, if I look at the body request that matches ID name is complete. So it pulled them correctly. For the rest of those, I'm not going to define the rest of the actions in the interest of time, but we defined to get item, create new item, create the connector. I'm not gonna test it from here. I'm gonna just create an app quickly and see if that worked. Saving the connector, close it. Okay, we have it. I thought like it's not here. Okay, new app, canvas app. Let's create a phone app maybe. Custom demo. 3 minutes left. I'll try to go quicker. Let's add our data source. Connectors. We didn't create the connectivity, it seems. Let's go back to, I thought it will prompt me to create the connector from here. I created the custom connector, but I didn't instantiate the connection, it seems. So no problem, let's do that. See a plus button, create connection. Okay, that's cool. Create a connection. That's again, it's not as intuitive to my mind. Right, let's add now. Let's try to add it in the connectors. Now we have it here. All right, and just gonna insert a gallery maybe. And here in the items, what I'm gonna do is our API now that's coming. This API is exposed natively in Power Apps. So I go and yeah, these are the two operations that we defined: get items and create items. And create items, and I take only the name from the. Sure enough, it populated on my to-do, and if I don't like something here, you could always customize it. It's not like the old days. I was very thrilled by this. Cool. Let's say I'm happy with this. That's 1 minute left. We built the connector. We connected it using an Azure function and Swagger. There's a third way, and if you have an APIM in front of your API, it's likely to have that. Look at that. I created an APIM already. I have it from previous demo, but anyway, our platform is baked in Azure. You could, instead of doing the custom connector as we did it from Power Platform, you could do it from APIM in Azure. Go and create a connector to your. I'm not gonna do that for we are right on time, but just showing you the options. All right. With that, I don't have anything else for the demo today. We are right on time. If there are any last minute questions, please go ahead and ask. Right, guys, let me see the chat if there's a quick question that I could answer. For Logic App, the spot. I need to look at that question. In the interest of time, I'll close the recording. I'll answer you offline on the Logic App. Like custom connector in Power Platform doesn't support SOAP. Logic App supports SOAP, but I'll write more on this. All right. Thank you so much, guys. The recording and the presentation will be uploaded. So have a great day.